Okay, we're here. We're live. How we doing? So it's Friday, and Friday I tend to go a couple of different ways with this podcast or with these lives. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about striving for success. And I know right off the bat it sounds very rah motivational, and to a degree it is, but it digs into a little bit deeper than that. And something that I know I've dealt with a lot, even myself as a coach, but something I see in a lot of athletes as well that they really need to focus on, and that's changing their mindset around success. A lot of people are afraid of having big goals because they're worried about, what other people are going to say about them or anything like that. Roman, Rice, appreciate you guys tuning in. So we're going to get into it in about 30 seconds. Just a quick reminder, as always, the goal of this podcast is to help athletes reach new levels in their careers in sport. The goal is to help athletes reach their true potential and actually be able to build the dream career that they're after. And so today we're going to be talking about striving for success, and we're going to get going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about being afraid to strive for success. Now, right off the bat, sounds crazy, right? People saying that, you're afraid to be successful. It sounds crazy because I think consciously not very many people are. Not very many people walk around saying that, they're afraid to reach high levels in their sport. They're afraid to, do all these things. But the actions speak a lot louder than words. And the way I'm going to start that off is just by saying, think about when you were a kid. When you were a kid, you had all kinds of crazy ass dreams. I know when I was a kid, I wanted to be an NHL hockey player. I wanted to be an NBA player at one point, which is hilarious because I'm Canadian at 5'10". Probably not a great combination. Like, you have these dreams because you don't understand what is quote unquote realistic. And then as you get older, you have people tell you, oh, be a little more realistic. Oh, there's no way that can ever happen. Oh, you should strive for, something like this instead of something like that. Like, you have these people basically beat the dreams out of you as you get older. And even now, so many of you, I'm confident to say, are sitting here wanting to be a UFC champion, wanting to be a boxing world champion, wanting to, be a professional athlete, make millions of dollars, stepping into the ring, stepping into the cage, anything else that it is you do. But you're afraid to tell people that. You're afraid to tell your friends that you want to be a UFC champion because you're afraid of what they're going to say. You're afraid to tell your family that you want to be a professional athlete and you don't want to be a doctor or an accountant or whatever the hell your parents want you to be. You're afraid of that because we worry too much about other people's opinions and we worry too much about what other people are going to say. Now, an example for myself, and this was, coming up in coaching, when I was in university. So I started my first year of university, I took a modern languages degree, which is hilarious because my parents had me convinced that I could be a translator or a teacher. So I went into a languages degree, which I had a knack for languages, but I never really liked it. And I want to preface this by saying too, that when people say this kind of stuff to you, or when people, speak in this kind of way, as a rule, they have your best interest at heart. I wanted to run a gym. I wanted to coach athletes, but my parents had me convinced, hey, you should go into, education or languages or something like that and be a teacher, or you could be a translator, or you could, do these other things. And I was like, well, because what I want to do isn't realistic, I'll go into this other degree and I'll go be a fucking translator or be a teacher. I don't know. And I went through my first couple of I went through my first couple of months in a languages degree, which still feels ridiculous to me. And I realized I hate this. Like, this is not what I want to do. This is not where I want my life to go. And I thought, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I going to go to 4 years of university to get a degree I don't want, to go start searching for jobs I don't like, to probably not make that much money doing it? Like, the whole system just kind of seemed broken. And so I called my parents up and I told them I'm dropping modern languages. And originally I was going to go into psychology because I enjoyed that a little more, but it was still wasn't this unrealistic goal of becoming a strength and conditioning coach. And at that time, when I decided to go into psychology, there was a little bit of back and forth. And then I finally said, what am I doing? Why am I dropping one degree to go into another degree that I don't really want, instead of going for what I actually want? And what I actually wanted, as obvious now, is to become a strength and conditioning coach, which is something that I'm doing very well right now. And then so I had that conversation again, and my parents told me that if you pursue this degree, there are no jobs. So if you pursue this degree, you're going to end up working at a good life somewhere. You're not going to end up, going anywhere with it. And again, I want to preface that. Well, I guess not preface anymore, but I want to follow that up by saying, I understand that when they said that, it was from a place of love. It was from a place of not understanding that you can make your own career in this industry. So that wasn't like, my parents were very good people. They just didn't understand my mindset and my desire for what I wanted to do. It didn't make sense to them. So they wanted me to follow a safe, comfortable path that would, lead to a comfortable job and all of that, because that's what made sense to them. So I hold no ill will for that. We had our battles over the years, but I hold no ill will for that. But eventually I realized that I would rather take a shot at something that's super unrealistic, take a shot at something that, the average strength coach is overworked and makes like $25,000 a year, which is like barely enough to afford a tiny little apartment and groceries on the table. But I'd rather take a shot at making something out of that than settle for something I didn't really want. And this is where a lot of people get scared to strive for what they want. They get scared to speak about their goals because they have conversations like that with family where they're like, well, if you pursue a career in martial arts, you're going to end up some homeless guy living on the fucking street, never amounting to anything, because it's not realistic to pursue that. And, maybe that one's a little harsh to say it comes from love, but people want you to follow a safe path because that's what they understand, and they want you to be safe. But what you need to understand is that every person is built different. Is a career in martial arts realistic? Probably not. But there are a hell of a lot of people that are doing it. And if they can do it, you can do it too. The only way to guarantee that you don't make it is by not pursuing it and not actually giving everything you can to it. And this is what I had to learn many, many times over the years, even coming into coaching. So this is what I hope that, what it took me years to learn, it can be a wake-up call for you right now, is that your goals only need to make sense to you. But as long as they make sense to you, and as long as you understand what you're pushing towards, no one else's opinion can have any effect on that. Let me say that one more time. As long as your goals make sense to you, no one else's opinion can have any effect on that. Why? Because if you let those external voices in, then you let them throw you off the path to the goal you actually want. And if you let them throw you off the path to the goal you actually want, what happens? You don't achieve it. And then they end up being right. But if you say, fuck the noise, fuck what my parents have to say, fuck what my friends have to say, fuck what anybody has to say, this is what I want, so I'm going to give everything I fucking can to that, and I'm going to shout it from the fucking rooftops that I'm going to be a UFC champion one day, I'm going to be a millionaire coming from nothing, etc., then are you going to be a UFC champion? Maybe, maybe not. But you're going to be a hell of a lot fucking closer pursuing it that way than you are by letting your parents' opinion in, by letting your friends' opinion in, by letting anyone else's opinion in. Because the only way to guarantee that you don't succeed is by not putting everything you can into it. So coming back to the original actual topic of this, stop being afraid to strive. Because one of the things that I see a lot, and one of the things that I did to myself for years after I finally decided I'm going to pursue strength and conditioning, no fuck what anyone else has to say about it, this was the path for me, I started self-sabotaging because this career wasn't supposed to be realistic. So as soon as I started seeing some success, as soon as I started, making enough money to support myself, as soon as I started having a few clients that started doing some good things, I would start self-sabotaging. I wouldn't be taking it as seriously. I'd, sleep in late and in turn, like miss a couple of sessions. Like I wasn't living up to the potential that I knew I had because it didn't seem realistic that this was happening at all. And this is another place I see a lot of people go. They take their training seriously for a year. They have 2 really good fights, and then they start slacking off, start getting off the meal plan, start going out on the weekends, having a little bit of fun, stop showing up to strength and conditioning work as much, skip a session here, a session there. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm killing it lately. Like they take that half-assed attitude towards it. And what starts happening is the results start to fall off. And when the results fall off, you're reinforcing that thought with yourself that this wasn't realistic to begin with. You're reinforcing that this wasn't realistic. So if it wasn't realistic, you sabotage it. And if you sabotage it, then you reinforce that thought that it wasn't realistic anyway. So what you need to understand is that these actions, you skipping training, you going off the meal plan, you going out on the weekends, getting fucking hammered, doing all that dumb shit, is you telling yourself, the goals I have of being a UFC champion, the goals I have of, boxing world championships, the goals I have of being a millionaire and competing in my sport. That's you telling yourself that those goals aren't realistic for you. But the only way to make sure that those goals don't happen is by self-sabotaging, is by doing all those things like I said. So if you actually want to give yourself the best chance you can to succeed as an athlete, then you need to understand that the person you need to become, the person that, gets onto all those plans for those 6 months before they drop off, that is the person you need to remain, not just the person you need to become for a little bit. And if you can continue to be that person, you can continue to succeed. As an example, again, coming back to myself coming up in coaching, I started pursuing strength and conditioning. I'd have a little bit of success, I'd sabotage it. A little bit more success, I'd sabotage it. A little bit more success, I'd sabotage it. But as soon as I flipped the script and I said, I'm just not going to miss anymore. The things that I'm doing that are helping me succeed, I'm just going to keep doing those things more and stop doing the shit that pushes me away from it. All of a sudden, the business started growing a lot more linearly. More clients started seeing more success, talking me up more and more and more, which in turn brought in more clients, which in turn continued growing the business, which in turn continued pushing me towards the goals I have for myself personally, for the financial side of, being able to buy a house, support a future family, do all of those things, and continue to push me forward in the terms of the goals I have for impact in this career. I want to impact millions of athletes around the world, and you don't do that by half-assing the fucking effort. And so what I want you guys to take away from this podcast is to stop being afraid of the work you need to do. To stop being afraid of the work you need to do. Because the reason that I would self-sabotage so much, the reason I would, keep kind of pulling myself back is I was afraid of going to a family function and not drinking because, drinking is what you do at family functions. I was afraid of, saying no to desserts on the table because I have goals for my own fitness that I care about that help me in turn towards the goals of my business. I was afraid of not going out on the weekends anymore because I thought my friends would think I was lame. I was afraid of all these things. So I kept doing the shit that didn't help me because I was afraid that people would say that I was lame or I was a loser, or what would they say if I did all these things, made all these sacrifices and don't make it? And then I realized that doesn't fucking matter. If someone around you isn't supporting you, if you tell your best friend, I want to be a UFC champion one day, and they laugh at you, that's not your best fucking friend. That's a dickhead that is disguising themselves as your best friend. So instead of being afraid of telling these people what you want to do with your life, telling these people your goals, telling these people that, hey, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking so that I can double down and focus more on training, understand that these aren't your fucking people. If you can't tell them what you want to do with your life, if you can't tell them your goals because you're afraid of what they're going to say or you're afraid that they're not going to support you, those aren't your people. And so instead of trying to fit in and trying to just, stay under the radar and not strive, understand that you can break away from these fucking people and you can start striving towards what you actually want with your life. Because what's more important, that your best friend from high school continues to like you, or pursuing the life that you've always wanted? What's more important, that your mom approves of your plans, or pursuing the life that you've always wanted? Because I can tell you, from being on that path, I was doing, the things that made sense to my parents. I was pursuing the quote unquote safe career, the relationship, all that stuff. And I was fucking miserable. I hated every minute of it. And then I realized that I'm going to live the next 30, 40 years of my life working a job I don't like, for the sole purpose of my mom knowing that I was, safe and comfortable, my dad knowing that I was safe and comfortable, instead of saying, fuck that, and going after what I actually wanted so that I could live the life that I actually wanted. So that even though in the beginning I was very unstable, very unsafe, very uncomfortable, by the time I turned 30, I was in a better place than I ever would have been if I had stuck to the quote unquote safe path, right? So the safe path doesn't exist. You never know what it holds. So why are you holding yourself back? Why are you letting other people hold you back, instead of doubling down on what the fuck you want to do and actually pursuing that to the best of your abilities? All right, guys, that is it. That is all. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I hope you got some value from the episode. If you did, I'd love to know what it is. Shoot me a message on social media. Make sure you subscribe to the show, the YouTube channel. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all that good stuff. My main ask of you guys, as always, is if you got value from the show, share it with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with someone you know is going to benefit from this message. So again, I hope you had a fantastic rest of your day. I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode. All right.